This lesson is on place and phase values, as well as literal and standard notation. We're going to start by talking about place values. So what I have given you over here is a place value chart. I've given you this really big number, and each of these numbers has a word associated to it. Now, this is something that we've seen many times in our lives, especially if we're getting to grade 7 math, especially the ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands column. What you may not be familiar with at this point, though, is that there are many other types of columns here that we don't usually talk about, but we are going to learn about in this lesson now. So the first thing is that sometimes it's a bit hard to remember all of these, but understand that it always starts with ones, tens, hundreds, thousands. And then it's kind of like it starts over again. So once we get to thousands, it starts again to 10 thousands, and then it starts again to 100 thousands. Then we get to millions, and then it restarts from 10 millions and then 100 millions. It's always like a pattern. If that helps you out, that would be a very good hint for you to help remember. And we're right now talking about everything on this side of the decimal. But how about we look at this side of the decimal? This side of the decimal looks really, really, really similar to the other side of the decimal. The only thing that's kind of missing is the ones. Instead, we start with the word tenths. So it kind of looks like tens. We kind of skip the ones. It starts with tenths, then hundredths, then thousandths. And then it kind of continues the exact same way we did on this side, except instead of saying thousands, we say thousandths. So we're basically adding a TH at the end. And then we're going to keep going to millionths, and then we can go on to 10 millionths and 100 millionths, but you have to add that TH at the end. So when I ask you, find the place value of the 5 in the above chart, what that means is what place, what is the column, what is the name of where that 5 is. So I'm going to highlight the 5 for you. It's right here. It's given to you at the bottom, but you may have to do this on your own, and the answer is it's in the hundredths column, hundredths. Okay, we just say hundredths. We don't say 500ths. We say it's in the hundredths place. And what about the 6? Well, if I look here, there's only one 6, and the 6 is here. And it already tells it to us, but we're going to write it out anyway. It's in the 10 thousandths place. Okay, so anytime you're asked to find the place of a number or the place of a digit, a numeral, we're looking for one of these words. Next, we're going to go on to face value. Face value is a lot easier, in my opinion, than place value because all I want is the number itself, like the numeral itself. I just want to know what the number is. So when I ask you, find the face value of the underlined numeral in this case is 4. So you're either going to write 4, or I prefer it if you would write 4. So I really just want to know what is the number that is underlined. What is the face value of the underlined number? And so for number 2, it's the same thing. What is the face value of the underlined number? In this case, the face value is 3, or if you are in my class, I will ask you to write it as in a word as 3. Okay, which leads us to our next slide, which we call standard and literal notation. So I'm just going to give you a number. We'll say 5, 6, 7, 4, 9, 4. The way that it is written right now, as you see it, this is called standard form. It's exactly as you see it. Standard form, standard notation, it's all the same. It's standard. But remember in the last slide when I told you it would be better if you wrote down like the word of the number? The reason why is because of literal notation. Now, literal means, well, I'm sure you've heard of the word literal before. It means exactly as it is. But in this case, what we basically want is the number in words. If I were to say this number in words, I would say 567 and 494. A lot of ands. We're going to actually ask that you write all of those ands. So what literal notation is I'm going to actually write out the word 567,494. That is the literal notation. Now, if you're not sure how to actually say the word, that's what place value is for as well. So we are in the hundred thousands in the number that I gave you, so we're in that column, the hundred thousands column. And so I know that it's basically the number 122,000 and 349. In our case, in my example, it's 567,449. That was easy. What happens if I gave you one with decimals? So I'll give you another example here. We're going to say, how about 9182.2281. So this here, as I've written it out right away, this is the standard form, standard notation. Now, this is where things get a little bit complicated. This number here is easy to say, 9,182. It's this number here after the decimal that people get a little bit confused of. So my trick, which I'm going to tell you right now, is you're going to say this number 2,281. But because it's past the decimal, we're going to add something after that 1. So this 1 here is in a specific place. And if you're not sure, let's go back to the first slide. This 1 here is in the 10,000ths column. So instead of just saying 2,281, we're going to add 10,000ths at the end of it. So if we say it out, this is 9,182 and 2,281 10,000ths. Now, this might get long to write, but it is very important that you know how to write it. So we're going to do, in a different color here, the literal notation of this nice number that I've given you here. We're going to write it out, 9,000. You can write and 82, but because of space, I'm just going to write 9,082. And with that decimal, and 2,200. I'm going to write and 81. And remember, because we are past the decimal here, we're going to add the place that it's in. And in our case, I told you that it was in the 10,000ths. So we're going to write 81 10,000ths. And that's it. So just to recap, we have place value. We did place value, which is the chart, C chart. We did face value, which is literally just the digit itself. And we did standard notation, which is just, again, just the number. And I'll give you a quick example here. Example 567. And we also did literal notation, which I'm going to take this and I'm going to write it out as 567. And that's it for this lesson.